Greetings and welcome back to the Awesome Lindsay channel. Today we're talking photography with
It's Jeroen.
Jeroen,
Yeah, that's really good.
and hopefully I didn't butcher that name pronunciation too much.
Most of the Americans say Jeroen.
He's an amazing self-taught commercial photographer. He's from the Netherlands. I've been following him in a photography group we're in for quite a while, and the way he lights, composes, and edits his images, you can instantly tell they're his even before looking at the full post. So I didn't want this intro to be too long. I just kind of wanted to scroll through his Instagram so you could get a feel for his work before we got to talking. So enjoy. Can you tell me really quickly, is this like your full-time or is this a hobby for you? I'm guessing it's full-time, right?
No, it's full time. I've been working as a photographer for the past 11 years already, full time. Yeah, I'm 30 years old. I look a little bit younger, but yeah, I've been doing it professionally since the age of 18.
How did you get into it?
Um, I started photography because of my love for skateboarding.
Interesting.
Yeah. Well, a lot of photographers start from, or artists start from a creative sport, and usually that's skateboarding. And I started skateboarding because of my friends. They bought Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2 when I was young. I think I was like 10 years old. And we were hooked on skateboarding. And as a skateboarder, you of course want to learn new tricks. And one of the ways we did that was by looking at skateboard DVDs or magazines and see how the pros did the tricks. But I quickly knew that a professional skateboard career wasn't something that was my fit. So I tried the other thing that was interested in, and that was the way it was captured. So I bought a real small toy camera at the local toy store and started capturing my friends skateboarding with it. And well, never
Never
stopped.
stopped. What camera did you start out with?
Well, it
Do
was
you,
a really small. It was like this big, and it
uh-huh.
had in 0.4 megapixel, and it also had a keychain, so you could link it to your to your belt.
I'm thinking like
And
one of those Tamagotchi little thingies in a camera.
kinda, yeah,
Wow.
and it has an internal memory of 36 images, and you couldn't see the images on the back. There was no screen, so it was like a like the old school
Ah,
throwaway camera. You could only see them when you're connected to your computer, and you could erase the images. So it was always like you don't know what you're shooting, but well, it was at least it
dang.
was free to do instead of buying film each time.
So it was just photos. Did you ever do video or anything?
I did some video, but just like, but yeah, that's just
So
nothing
you
special.
your love is more in photography, right?
Well, I do love video a lot, and nowadays I draw a lot of inspiration from the work of cinematographers in terms of lighting and storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but well, I just don't have the skills to capture the video I want to create. So, well, perhaps someday in the future I will be a director, and I got a team that will make my vision come to life.
That's awesome. Because yeah, what I noticed in your lighting is like you seem to light like cinematography or cinematographic. You know what I mean? Like you light. Because I've also heard that phrase: "You light the space, not the face." Have you heard that before?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like a lot of your stuff, like you have, it's just very cinematic in your lighting, which is kind of what I wanted to ask you most about. Is like how, let's see, when you do a shoot, like do you have all the lights placed in your head from a plot, or do you get to the shoot and just like you start with one light and then take a few shots, move to the next light, take a few shots? How do you start placing your lighting and your modifiers?
Well, it depends, of course, on the location. Most of the times, I knew what I'm going for, so I knew like, okay, I want to have the soft light from here, so I take an octobox or a strip bank, or I don't want a harsh sunlight from outside, so I'm gonna place that light. Well, it's a case by case thing. It just depends on the type of look I'm going after. But most of the times, like even most of my commercial work, we do a location scout before the shoot. So I go in with my assistant or with the client and the assistant, and we usually just go over each shot we want to take in a room. So, okay, we want to have someone standing here and then there, and I'm just making blank shots with my camera just as to see how the composition is working out. And then when we get back in the studio, we're thinking of, okay, let's place lights here, 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 here. So that's sometimes the way it works. But for some projects, like some personal projects I do, I just go to the location and just perhaps just um, working on my experience. I just know what I want to do.
Where did you learn lighting from?
Well, a lot of trial and error, and online watching YouTube tutorials. I've been doing like the off-camera flash photography since I was 15, 16 years old. So I've been doing quite a while. And back in the days, you had
Oh yeah,
strobist.blogspot.com. I don't know if you
love
know it.
strobe. Is that still
Yeah,
around?
I don't know. I don't know. I've never looked it up, but perhaps it still is.
Yeah. Did you? So you watched all the 101s and 102s?
Yeah, yeah. And when I was starting out, like YouTube wasn't really a big thing. Like if you go on YouTube in somewhere in like 15 years ago, you would have maybe 5 pages of photography behind the scenes tutorial stuff. And I've watched them all like several times. But now, well, there are millions of videos. So you can learn everything you want in photography now. Well, not everything, but
Yeah,
enough to
almost.
get you started out. Yeah.
So you didn't go to school or anything. You just you started
I,
shooting your friends skateboarding, and then you started watching a bunch of Strobist things and just trial and error.
Yeah, but I also did a photography school, but I did two photography schools. The first one I dropped out after a year because um, I was just way ahead of knowledge in terms of the rest of my class. They were
Hmm.
still, some of them, after half a year, they still didn't know how to change a lens. And I was already shooting strobes outside. So it was just a really big gap in terms of the knowledge. So I quit that, went to another photography school. I did finish it, but it was still, I was at that time 17 years old, and my oldest classmate was 63.
Hmm.
So it was again people that were not real passionate about photography, but it was like, well, it's something I just want to do. Now I'm retired.
So one of the first introductions of your work was this violin shoot. So this one, I was curious how this all came together. Did you have a crew that you went and scouted out the location first, and then you decided where you wanted to put lights, or like how did this all kind of work out?
I came across that violin player through, I think it was Instagram, and I was want to do something with a violin player for a very long time, and I've reached out to him. He's also from the Netherlands,
Hmm.
so I asked him if he wanted to collaborate, and he said, "Yeah, sure." And I was asking him for like, "Do you have perhaps an interesting location where we can shoot it?" And at the time, this was his house.
Oh, dang! Really?
Yeah, he was living in the south of Germany with his girlfriend, who was the mayor of a small town, and that castle was like um, the town hall. And we shot there for 2 days. And well, to come back to what you said about lighting, the first day when we arrived, we scouted each room in the castle in terms of the look we were going after. And
Hmm.
this room, as you're seeing, it was just perfect. And we kept it fairly simple because I wanted to have a natural but still like epic look.
Yeah.
So we've placed one strobe outside as a sun, and I think it's just
Okay.
one strip box inside just to fill in the shadows on our violin player. But the main light, like the light that's doing the most in the entire room, is coming from that one light that's outside, placed on a big light stand with a boom in it, with a C stand, and we've expanded
Okay.
it to, I think, 12, 13 meters high. So it was up high.
And you use Broncolor, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
most of my work you're seeing is shot with brown colored lighting. Yeah.
So when you do your outside lights, are you placing it pretty close to your window, or do you like pull it further back so like the light will spread
Yeah, no, put it back further.
further
Yeah,
back?
when yeah, to give it more the otherwise the beams you will get are going really like this. Like the further the light is, the more long the shadows are. So, but sometimes we couldn't get the light further away from the windows. I wanted to have them even further away, so the light beams will be more straight, as in they're still expanding a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to have them straight, but we couldn't do that. We couldn't get the light because there was a rift or a small lake, so we couldn't place the light there.
Okay.
And also the brown color would lose too much power because we already was shooting at I think full power on that strobe.
Are they like a 1200 watt or are they like 600 watt?
No, these are 800.
So in that light you're seeing from the ground, that's coming from your outside bronze color, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have haze and stuff too? Do you like use some sort of atmosphere? How do you do that?
Yeah, this is used with I use a haze machine, not a fog machine. Some people use a fog machine, but I don't prefer the look of fog. It's too cloudy. It's too thick. Haze just gives a really thin atmospheric layer in the room that I prefer for most. Not all of my shoots, but for some, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So that's totally cinematic lighting, man. Like hazers are, I mean, they're super expensive, right? But they're worth it.
Well, yeah, they're worth it. I think. Yeah.
Okay. So, and then for lens choice, you shoot, well, what camera are you shooting with?
Most of my work is shot on a digital medium format camera that is phase one, and I use a variety of lenses. I own a 28, 45, 55, and an 80. And
Okay.
sometimes, if I need a longer lens, I'll rent it, like a 110 or 150.
And then how do you choose your f-stop? Do you start with that when you're shooting?
Well, the thing is with the medium format camera, I just really like the depth of field it delivers. It's something. It's just a kind of look you can't really achieve with a DSLR camera or a mirrorless camera.
Uh-huh.
So a lot of my work is shot on a pretty wide open aperture. Most like 4.5, 5.6. I rarely take it to like 16. I just don't like it. It makes it too flat. I want to have some depth of field in it.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I love about your work is like you have like a nice soft background on most of your images.
Yeah, that's something I prefer. Yeah.
Because your f4 on a medium format kind of translates roughly to like a 2.8 on a full frame. Is that correct?
I don't know if
Something around there.
it's. I don't know if that's the same, but
Something,
it could
yeah.
could be. I don't know.
So, what got you into medium format cameras?
Well, it's there were several photographers that I followed that were using that camera, and their images were just standing out in terms of look and feel. It was something I just couldn't create, and at one point I just was like, let's just try it, and I bought my first medium format camera 7 years ago, I think, maybe eight, and yeah, well, never went back.
So, you
And
just instantly knew you started seeing the difference?
yeah, and well, it's there are two things that I really like on medium format cameras. One is, of course, the depth of field, as I already mentioned, but the other thing is my phase one. The lenses I use are leaf shutter lenses. Um, which means that I got a flash sync of 1/1600 instead of 1/200 or 250 or
Hmm.
some so even 1/25. And for my work, as I'm shooting a lot of portraiture outdoors, I like to underexpose the ambient light, maybe one or two stops, and fill it in with my flash. And you can do it for example, a Canon DSLR, but you have to put a lot of ND filters in it in front of your lens to still get that open aperture and that shutter speed that you can still work your flash with. So, and the bad thing is that the ND filters, for example, if you're using a 2 or 3 stop ND filter, it also stops down your flash to a 3 stop. So you need a really powerful flash to create that same look. And so that's one of the biggest, still for me, that's the biggest benefit for shooting digital medium format. But the downside is the digital medium format camera are slow as hell.
Like
they got an autofocus, but it's just like one single point. It's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. The system itself, I hate it, but I just love the quality. So it's love-hate relationship with it.
Because did you say you're on a phase 1 body?
Yeah, phase 1 body, and I got a Leaf Credo 50 digital back.
How old is that? Because I feel like the phase 1s were faster in like autofocus and all that.
they are faster than the
slow.
older medium, but still slow. Yeah,
Okay.
I think it's like speed isn't really a thing that I need for my work, but the autofocus, well, I always shoot manual focus because I don't really trust the autofocus. And on digital medium format, especially if you're on a wide open aperture and you're getting close to the subject, it makes a huge difference if you got your focus on the nose or on the eyes. If you got it if you got it on the nose, the eyes are really out of focus. So that's also makes it a lot difficult.
So when you're with your body, it's not a mirrorless, right? You can't like zoom in while you're focusing on the eye, correct?
You can, there's a live view, so you can tap in 100%, like focus and then go back. But of course, if you're shooting handheld and the subject is not standing still, you're still moving. So, well, it's hard, but if you get it all right, it pays off.
Oh, that's amazing. So just going back to this violin one really fast. So this is all controlled lighting. You're not taking anything from the sun. It was all, you stopped everything down enough to light it. Man, that's freaking so cool. Yeah, that's one thing I love is like you look at the background there, is just like it's soft, but it's got like that, it's got a creamy kind of look to it, but he's also in focus, like his face is in focus, his shoulders are still quite there. Yeah, it's just got an awesome look to it. I have a few other ones, but I also wanted to ask you, because you have a book, The Mountain Men. Can you tell us about that, kind of plug that a little bit?
Yeah, of course. For people, it's over here. That's my book, and I've been working on it for. It launched last December 2021, and I've been working on it for over 5.5 years. So I'm extremely excited to have finally got a copy of it. And it's it's documentation about a group of men who are still living the traditions of the original mountain men that were living mostly in the Rocky Mountains between 1804 and 1840. There were like fur traders. Perhaps have you seen The Revenant?
Yeah.
The characters in The Revenant are based on the original mountain men. They're like some historical figures. So that's like my book. That's those people are still reliving their lifestyle. The Mountain Man book is a result of a 4-year documentation about a group of men who follow in the footsteps of America's greatest, most daring explorers and pioneers, known as the Mountain Men. This extraordinary group has the ability to survive under any weather condition using only what nature has to offer. The book features 240 pages, filled with over 100 highly detailed photos, stories from the trails, and an index with descriptions that takes the reader on a historical journey. To give justice to the amazing sceneries, we've also included some pages that fold out to create a large panoramic image of 72 centimeters wide. By going over the images in the book, the reader will experience what the life of the mountain man in the 19th century must have felt like. Complemented with stories and explanations about techniques used by the fur trappers, The book also contributes to the preservation of the skills and knowledge used by the original mountain men.
Okay, so your book is Mountain Men. What got you into that?
I came across a tweet that was placed by National Geographic in the summer of 2015, and it was a really small article. It had like one page of text and around five images, and um, for some reason it looked like a film. I couldn't really believe it. It was still people that are doing this lifestyle. So I tried to find more about them. And then I was really surprised that I could find a lot of books or paintings of them, but no visual documentation of the group that is reenacting this today. And this made me wonder if I could get in contact with some of these mountain men. And by contacting various musea and historians, I managed to get in contact with one of these mountain men. And I also asked them, like, why are there why is there no visual documentation? And he explained to me that a traditional mountain man rendezvous is always historical correct. So that means the time period 1804 1840. So that means no contemporary clothing, but also no contemporary technology, no smartphones, cameras, video cameras, etc. But my contact Duane also told me, like, the group that is doing this today is getting a little bit older, and there are not a lot of young people coming into the group.
Mm-hmm.
So he proposed to me to set up a rendezvous, to get pictures for the people to see what they're still really thriving for. And that's what we did. We set up the first rendezvous in May 2016 in a valley in the Rocky Mountains. We spent 5 days there, just shooting photos, shooting guns, catching beavers, just campfires, having a good time. And I think a year after I took those photos, I looked at the series and I questioned myself: do these images represent the mountain men in a way I interpreted them? And the question was no, because the mountain men that are doing this today, they spend they don't go out for just the summer weekends. They go out in every possible weather scenario you can think of. So why don't my images represent that feeling? So I contacted Duane again and said I want to come back and expand the series. And that's what I did. I traveled 7 more times in late 2017 and the entire 2018 to finish up the series on different seasons and different locations to get a widest documentation possible.
So how many people went with you, and like what kind of gear did you bring for all those shoots?
The first time I went with my friend. He's a cinematographer, and another friend that is a director, and we also made a small video about it. But the 7 times after that one, I went all by myself. But I didn't spare expense on equipment, so I still hollered my Phase One, my broncolor lighting, a C stand, sandbag.
Whoa!
Well,
really?
I rented the C stand and a sandbag when I was in the US, but yeah.
So you're just like, did you have like a wheelie cart or a backpack that you're just carrying all this stuff up the mountain from?
No, just a low pro, just normal backpack, camera backpack. Yeah, it was pretty intense. short and really intense.
Did you have to hike the whole thing, or were you able to take like a 4-wheeler or something?
No, we've hiked a lot. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And all those seven trips we did, I did, were also pretty short. I mostly flew on Friday early in the morning, arrived due to the time delay somewhere Friday late in the afternoon after a 17-18 hour flight. Rented a car, still 3 to 4 hour drives most of the times. And then we shot on Saturday, shot on Sunday, and I flew back on Monday because I was doing it in 2018, and it was a pretty busy year for me. Mm-hmm. So I need to be back in the studio on Tuesday to shoot again.
So, did you have like shots prepared that you wanted, or did you just get up there and you're like, okay, you're shooting away, or did you have to like set up scenes and like kind of stylize areas of like where they were settled?
I try to do as much as I can on forehand. So I did a lot of location scouting through Google Maps. Try to see interesting places where we could shoot, and also made a shot list. Every time that I went, of course, the shot list um, went smaller and smaller because I just crossed things off the list that I already shot.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't really direct them. It's more of a documented style of photography that I did on this project, but slightly stylized in terms of when they were preparing for a campfire or they were skinning a beaver. I was like, okay, can you maybe turn your body more this way because the light is coming from
Okay.
this way, and I place a light here, so please don't look down too much. And I was more
Yeah.
like giving them subtle directions, but just let them do their thing, because I didn't want to be it as a stylized, directed
Okay.
photo series. I really want to tell the story as it is.
What modifier did you bring? Did you bring like a big softbox or something, or umbrellas?
Yeah, these images are all shot with a brown color flash and a 74-inch Octabank.
Man, that's a lot of gear to haul up a mountain.
Well, yeah, yeah.
That's cool. Yeah. So I don't know how much time you have, but I have like zillions of questions.
Well, we can
Um,
do a few more.
okay. How did you get into what you're doing today? Like, did you sign on with like an agency? Did you start scouting out people in your area and say, "Hey, I do this type of thing"? How did you build your business to where it is now?
Yeah, no, indeed. At the moment, I'm not signed with an agency. I was signed with an agency a couple years ago, but we weren't the right fit for each other. The agency I was that were representing me was more into the CGI automotive style photography, and of course, I don't have that in my portfolio, so that wasn't a really good fit. So we just let it be. But I started out by shooting a lot of personal projects and trying to build up an interesting portfolio and send them to art directors or ad agencies locally, and first getting jobs from them, and of slowly I started evolving into more bigger jobs and started going more nationally and then internationally to, well, yeah, art buyers, creatives, yeah, you name it.
So you just started. Did you gather like assistants and like other people that you knew, and you're just like, "Hey, I've got this job. Do you want to work for me?" And then you started building your crew that way.
Yeah, yeah, and I also run a studio, and we also have like four interns that do like each half year we have two interns that are at our studio,
Uh-huh.
and we already do that for 9 years. So
Wow.
that's a lot of interns, and a lot of them were are freelancing at the moment.
Hmm.
So still, a lot of them are my crew. As if I got a bigger job, I just bring up one of my old interns and
Do you have any
to help me
full
out.
time people that you keep on, or is it mostly just per job you hire out?
Well, yeah, it's per job. Yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah. Well, because it really depends. Like 2020, due to Corona, was a really bad year for me. I lost a lot of jobs
Uh,
because you weren't allowed to travel, or you couldn't get big shoots,
hmm.
or you couldn't get makeup and hairstyling due to the distance you needed to have. But 2021, the stuff here, especially in the Netherlands, were opening up a lot more. So it was the busiest year I ever had. Um, but yeah, most of my interns, or sorry, my assistants, is just on a
Per job.
yeah,
Well, that's
yeah,
cool.
just per job.
So this bike shoot,
Yeah. Mhm.
did you do the retouching on this or composition, and like I don't know, how did this all come about lighting wise?
Yeah, this was a big campaign I did last year. It was for the global launch of Shimano's Dura Ace. It's they make bike gears.
Yeah, it shifts through the gears on the chain, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and there was a lot of budget going into this shoot, and there were a lot of eyes on the launch. They were working on it for over 5 years, so it was a pretty big campaign for them.
Mm-hmm.
So what we did is we've shot each rider separately before the shoot. The ad agency really made a detailed briefing of like they made a drawing sketch of how they wanted to have the rider positioned.
Mm-hmm.
So we already knew before the shoot each position we wanted the rider to have, like each angle on the rider.
Mm-hmm.
And also the background, that's a 3D background, was already like the first draft version was already available for us on the shoot. And we kind of mimicked the light that was available, like that was going in that background image. So you see in the background image, you see some light coming through the shafts of the tunnels, and we just kind of mimicked that same lighting with our strobes.
Okay.
So you see, if you see the behind the scenes, we've placed a big strip box above the rider that's
Mm-hmm.
mimicking the light from above. Of course, some soft boxes to fill in the shadows and to make the product available or visible,
Mm-hmm.
and one big light that's more as our tunnel light, like where the sun is coming from or where the rider is going to. It's one big light.
So let me go back to this one.
Hmm.
Did you where did you start from on this one? Did you start with your top light, then you moved to your wide octabox, and then you moved to your big diffusion panels, or how did you start?
Well, yeah, the diffusion panels aren't really doing a thing in these images. They're more to so we could easily cut the rider later on in post production,
Okay.
instead of having a brick wall.
Because you do, if you look on one of the other behind the scenes, you do have a light behind there with a para umbrella, right? Is that doing anything?
Yeah, that's one. Indeed, in one of these setups, it's doing like it's a really subtle rim light. I
Okay.
don't know in which one yeah, it's in this one. Yeah.
Okay. So you're only are you shooting, are you firing that strobe on all the images or just for a certain angle? Does that make
No,
sense?
no. Each angle was a slightly different lighting setup.
Do you have a main light in this one, would you say, or do they all kind of like even?
Um, well, our main light, I think the light that's doing the most is our strip box that was coming from above.
Okay.
That's doing the most, and then the rest is more like filling in and creating edge lights.
Okay, so you have a strip light above, you've got a wide kind of octabox,
Hmm.
a little bit from above pointing down. Then you've got a lower strip box, it looks like, right?
Yeah, yeah, and with a grid on it, and that's just more for the product to because the lower part of his body was getting a little bit shadowy.
Gotcha. So those, you're not really using them as diffusers, you're using the white as just a background to cut out, correct?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay. And then, so did you do the retouching on this? Did you do all the compositing and whatnot?
yeah. Most of the retouching is done by me. I think like 50 maybe 60%. The rest is 20%. The ad agency did some final tweaks and the 3D compositor also.
Man, that is so awesome. Do you have like a certain set of things you do in retouching? Do you do like a sharpening? Do you do a dodge and burning? Do you have a set thing? Or do you
No, not really. It just still depends on what I'm trying to create in that image. Well, of course, I do the color grading, like skin grading, some dodge and burning, overall contrast, some clarity in some of these images.
gotcha.
Um, well, yeah, yeah.
The color like on skin tones on your images, do you have to pull out any reds? Do you have to like do too much tweaking on those, or does the bronze color lighting and then the phase one camera kind of just nail that already.
Well, they do a pretty good job, but still, no, but still, I tweak the things in Capture One. Yeah,
Cool. Yeah, that's probably have like a good on time. I probably should let you go. But dude, I want to thank you for being on. Like it was amazing chatting with you.
yeah, it was fun. Thanks, man.